Welcome, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to RAA Talks. We're so happy to have you with us. As a reminder, if you're rejoining us for the first time today, my name is Raihana, like rye bread, and I'll be your host. We got a great show for you today. Before I introduce my guest, I want to let you know that I am a life and career coach, and I work on empowering women to create the lives they want to lead. How do I do that? Well, I help women identify what their goals are, what stands in the way of inhibiting them towards those goals, and we work together in a coaching relationship to create action plans so they can move forward. Fun fact about me, I love myself a savory cup of Brazilian dark roast coffee, hold the sugar and creamer. And now I wanted to let you know about our exciting guest today. We have Anita Johnson joining me. Anita, so happy to have you on the show. Thank you so much for connecting with me again.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. And where are you dialing in from today?
I am in Atlanta, Georgia.
All right.
Lovely. ATL was very hot, but not today so much, but usually.
Okay. Is ATL home for you or a recent move?
Well, I've been living here for about 40 years. After I got discharged, I was here. I got here. I'm originally from Massachusetts, Springfield, Massachusetts, the home of the Basketball Hall of Fame.
Oh, we got Massachusetts over here. I love Boston. If I could be in here, I would definitely live in Boston.
It's a something. It's a city.
I remember when we went to the airport, Logan Airport, they were like touting the Celtics wins throughout the years. And it was just incredible to see that kind of success and the pride the city has in their sports teams, for sure.
Absolutely.
Really incredible. So speaking of interesting things going on, what's an interesting fact about you, Anita, that you'd like to share with listeners today?
Well, I guess the most interesting thing is I'm a veteran from the United States Coast Guard. I went in right after Vietnam was over, and I chose the Coast Guard because there was quotas that the Navy was doing at the time, and so only so many women they would accept on submarines, any kind of duty on a ship. Because of the situation back then, it was only a certain amount of women that they would do, and they were just trying to, I guess at the time, it was supposedly women could not be in any kind of infantry or any kind of battle situation, but we could do other things. And so they were really specific as to what women they would accept. So, at the time, they were trying to also accept women in the Coast Guard. And so that's how I was able to get in the Coast Guard. So I went I was a boatswain mate, which is a person who does all of the, I guess, at the time, directing the boat, driving the boat. It's not a female-oriented billet or job posting. And so small boat stations are stations that are boats that are less than 40 feet that are used for rescue. And they're usually for rescue mostly, and to help actually police the particular harbor where you're in. So at the time, my job duty was at Situate, Massachusetts, which is where the Kennedys are, and so it was a lot. That was for sure.
You totally underplayed how interesting that was. Just so you listeners know, first of all, one of the few women to be admitted to the U.S. Coast Guards, and she was going for Marines, y'all. Don't forget that part.
I was going for the Navy because that's where my dad was
Navy.
In the Navy. Well, it's a difference. And the Navy said no. And this was back in the day. It was just 1976 or so. And it was back when there was a lot of glass ceilings, women trying to do non-traditional things. And sometimes it was kind of hard to do it. But sometimes
and what made it possible? Yeah, what made it possible for you? Because you were talking about breaking some ceilings. It was a non-traditional job for women, but you made that happen. That's pretty powerful.
I think what happened was I think my dad had something to do with it. I think my scores at the time, they were just starting with a testing situation where you had to test to be in the military. It used to be you just signed the dotted line and they took you away. But this was when they started with a test. And I think at the time, I didn't want to fight. I didn't want to carry a gun. I didn't want to, because of the Vietnam War, and I was protesting the war at the time, actually. And so the dichotomy, this is a young person's thought process, the dichotomy of going in the military and then protesting the war. So I said, oh, well, this will work out, because at the time, the United States Coast Guard was under, not under the Defense Department. It was under the Department of Transportation. So our job was to save lives and to police the harbor. So harbor, when you're in a harbor, you can you can't go so fast. It's the same as like in highway driving. It's the same situation. So you can't go so fast. You can't go, you have to be careful of other people's property, that kind of thing. So that's why I said, oh, this will be good. And that's why.
So I'm curious, you mentioned your dad had some influence on you getting in, but where did that thought come from in the first place? You were talking about, I was protesting against the war. How did you even decide I want to go in the Navy and then landed in Coast Guard?
So what happened was Springfield, Massachusetts is a small place. And I had been born there, and I was under the impression that I wanted to see the world. And so travel, see the world, get out of this place called Massachusetts and go. And that was the reason. It was nothing, charitable or anything. It was just me trying to get out of Massachusetts. And so that was my whole journey. Let's go.
I'm going to pause you real quick right there, because that is such a parallel to my story when I was in California. And the one thing I said I'm going to do is I'm going to get into nursing school. I'm going to go study in Massachusetts and get the heck out of here, which is so funny. I was like, I'm telling you, I was determined to go to Boston. I was going to UMass, going to do a nursing program. I had it all mapped out. I'm like, I got to get out of here. So it's so funny. You were trying to get out of the place I was trying to go to, and you planned to go somewhere else. Maybe it would have been California.
Absolutely. California would have been great. San Francisco, 70 degrees, 24/7. Oh, yes, I love it. Anywhere out of the snow. So anyway, that's how, to answer your question, that's why I decided to leave, or I was doing anything to get out of that little town, because that's all I had known. And I knew that there was more than just Massachusetts. And so I was ready to go.
And how did that pan out for you? Because I joined thinking this is going to be a way for me to escape from Springfield. I'll get out and see the world. How did that pan out for you in living out that dream?
Well, I didn't see the world like I had thought, get on a boat and go anywhere. Because the United States Coast Guard only is United States. That's it. And so I actually met the most amazing people. One of the things I can say is the people that I met, I still know to this day.
Wow. And
they were transformable to me. And their family is my family. People that I met, I still talk to this day. I call my sister, and it was transformative. I grew up, and I realized that I didn't know everything, because I really thought I knew everything before I left.
That's so funny. And I think that's brings a lot of truth to how young people think today. And again, this podcast is all about learning how we're connected to each other. And I think there's another beautiful point of connection there, that even though you're saying this was back in the 70s, young people today still feel like, I want to go see the world and I'm going to do X to do it, or I want to do this because it's going to help me live out exactly what I want to do in life. And then you do it and you realize, wow, like how tunnel visioned was I thinking? And you realize like what, 5-10 years later, maybe longer than that. So it's so interesting how the human mind is still on the same wavelength, even though we're at different age groups.
Absolutely. I was under the impression that whatever I needed to do, and the thing is, you're right. I was just I. It was never, the collective good, what's good for, anybody. I was just me, I, that's it.
Well, then speaking of, you were me, I. Let's get to the real meat here, because you and I know what I'm getting at right now, where it's moved on from becoming about me, I to let's do something for the greater good of humanity in this new small town where you grew up. So tell me about that time where you were limited in your personal life and you felt that you were able to break free and feel limitless. And you know what story I'm getting at. So let you go ahead and introduce it.
So thank you for asking. The way this journey that I'm on started with my children, and they were in public school here in DeKalb County, Decatur, Georgia. It's a suburb of Atlanta. And my children, I have a set of twin girls, and they were in a junior in high school, sophomore or junior. Yeah, one of those two. And they said that they wouldn't be having math because I looked at their schedule and they said, there's no math. And I said, what do you mean there's no math?
Crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. How is that? And you're just a sophomore and you haven't had algebra yet even. So
yeah, that's pretty insane.
Some other kids, would have algebra like when they're in 10th grade, maybe even 9th grade and 7th grade these days. So at that time, they were just getting algebra 1 and they weren't going to have it. And they were going to sit in a room and do worksheets. And I was like, wait, what? So I didn't believe her. Kelsey.
What do you mean by worksheets for listeners who don't know what that is?
So worksheets are, you just get copies out of a workbook and you just sit in a room and you do calculations like arithmetic because they had no algebra. So they were going to do things like how do you divide and, what are sets of something really low key, not even algebra. This is arithmetic, multiplication, division, that kind of thing. And that's what 5th grade, 4th grade, whatever that is that they were doing. So
was this all unsupervised learning? Since I'm assuming there wasn't any teacher.
Right, because there's no teacher. There was no teacher. That's why they were in this situation. So the teacher would have been a parapro or something so that the kids wouldn't, overtake the school or something. So that was their idea, was some person who's not really a math teacher, just a teacher or a parapro or someone that could help. I don't know what, because this, they were just going to sit in a classroom and really essentially do nothing. So
basically, it sounds like a substitute, like just they're kind of supervised and the kids do their own thing. Like they have their own assignments.
They just do whatever for an hour.
Okay.
For an hour. So
that's a lot.
So I didn't believe my daughter, and I went to the school to talk to the teacher, and he told me, yes, that's true. And I said, really? That's incredible. And so when he said that the reason why they didn't have it is because the county didn't have enough money to afford a teacher or afford however many teachers that they needed to teach math to these students. So let me back up a little bit. So I'm African American. I live in a 100% African American, middle class, I would say lower middle class area, where maybe 2 miles away was an all white school. They of course had whatever they needed. So when I see that this is happening, I tweet. This is when Twitter just was baby Twitter. I tweet our local reporter, which I happened to had follow at the time. I tweet to her and I say, check this out. What's this about? And so then ABC, our ABC affiliate, had gotten the tweet too from Martha Dalton. That is who is our reporter here. That the beat for the newspaper, local newspaper, has always been Martha Dalton. Anyway, he was reading her, or they were following each other, and so he said, "Well, I want to talk to you about this." He tweeted back to me, and I gave him my phone number, and then in I guess the next hour, I was in the parking lot talking about it. And as he was talking about it, everybody else was seeing this. Meanwhile, there's a parent-teacher meeting happening at the same time. Mm-hmm. I've never seen that many people. It was like 400 people at the parent-teacher meeting. Wow. The principal was like, "Oh my gosh," and the math teacher was like, "Whew, I guess we're going to get a math class or something." I don't know, but at the time, everybody was in this school. It was a lot of people. And at the time, they said that they had reevaluated their situation and that there will be math teachers hired and there will be math classes, in the next couple of days.
So just I'm connecting the dots right. You said 400 people showed up at the parent-teacher meeting. Did this happen as a result of your conversation with the news station?
I believe so, because when I was out there talking to him, it goes out to the local affiliate. So this is ABC News. It's on the local affiliate at the time. WSBB TV was just regular broadcast. And that's when everybody used to watch the same channel. Everybody used to watch the same news at the same time every day. And so it ran twice at 4:00 and then 6:00, and the meeting was at 7 something. So everybody was there.
Talk about a good PR for you.
Yeah, it was an amazing thing. And when I said on the news, or I must have said it, or I said out loud what everybody was thinking, that they would never have done this in an all-white school, or even a diverse school. They would have never done this. Even said, "Oh, you're not having math," just like offhandedly like that. And so that whole situation, my brother-in-law was with me, and he said, one of the things he said was, "If you don't like the situation that's happening, then you need to change the situation." And so my brother-in-law can be a little bit pissy at times, but he was right. And so that is how I get to going to school, getting my math degree, and then I want to get my master's degree in data science, and then go further. Even though, it's been quite a journey, but I would not have even thought about it unless that particular thing had happened.
That's so incredible. And thank you so much for being so brave to share that with us today. I just want to do a date check, because you're talking about the 70s and you fast forward to Twitter's early days. Around what year was this happening?
This happened 2007, I believe. I can look it up and give you an exact date. Okay. That video I sent you would have, I'm trying to think. It has to be 2007-ish, that time. Yeah. And that was amazing. And it's amazing that especially here in the South, how things will have changed in other areas, but in the South, it's just like it's 1962 all over again. Wow. And in some parts of our state, there are people who are marginalized, who are not given the correct opportunities, or the talent is there, but the opportunity is not. And even to know that there's an opportunity available to you, you've got to know, you got to have somebody to tell you or someone to explain it to you. And so that's always been my passion, to figure out a way to tell people, even though you don't know this calculus or you don't know linear algebra, if you want to learn it, there's ways that you can learn it. Yeah. Everybody can learn something. It's not your fault that you don't know it, but you can change your situation if you just figure this out. If you just give me a minute and let me show you where these things are, these resources are, because these days you have to learn. You have to know about algebra. You have to learn about calculus. And people will say, well, they don't need to. It's not necessary. Yeah,
well, I think bringing up a great point. And it sounds like after that situation happened where you advocated for your twins, which then created a ripple effect for more parents to jump in the game and be like, hey, my kid needs this too. Let's all come together and rally up support for this. And you actually established a math year for that school, which then, so here's the impact, y'all. Because Anita did this, not only the kids of that year in 2007 had math, which would then impact their future, but it would now impact their generations to come. That is the huge wave of impact of her one tweet. So it's not by any means like a small impact that she made. She made an impact on generations to come. So that's really crazy if you think about it. And on top of that, she got a little bit back into that that I did this for so many people. I served the world. Let me come back and help myself out by going back to school and getting more educated as well, which in turn is helping you. How what are you doing with that education now?
So right now, what I plan to do is, I'm not certain. I thought I was going to be a math teacher, but now I've been going to Clayton State University for a couple of years now. I'm getting a second bachelor's degree in mathematics. Ooh. And I was going to do a teacher, but I have been thinking about becoming a scientist, a data activist is what I want to be. And just to show people, here's what this data means. It doesn't mean X, it means Y. And here's how come, to verify it. I'm going to explain it to you. Here's what this really means. And so people will be able to not be, misinformed by these statistics and this data that people, tell people, well, it's right here, so it must be true. Well, if you're not looking at it correctly, then you're not going to get the right findings. You're going to get some misinformation, some mistakes, some faults that you don't need. So that's what I'm going into. I believe this, and that was because of my teachers over at Clayton State University. They're the best teachers in the United States. So.
That's fantastic. And when you talk about being a data advocate,
a data activist.
Data activist.
Correct.
What kind of data are you going to be an activist for?
Not certain right now, but it feels like I want people to, when people say, well, it's 82% blah, 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 or something, I need to be able to verify that data and say, well, this is what it really means. Not what so-and-so says. This is what it means. And to get people to understand that sometimes these institutions make it so that you can't do what you're supposed to do or what you think you want to do. There's institutions around us here in the United States that make it difficult or impossible to do what they say you're supposed to do. For example, you're supposed to get a degree in, get a high school diploma and then go to college and then buy a house and then blah, blah, blah. Well, how are you going to do that if you don't have any money or any support or any legacy support to do that? It's kind of difficult. And then you think there's something wrong with you, so you're gaslit. And people are saying, well, you're a nobody, so why are you even trying? That kind of thing. I want to be that person who says, no, that's not exactly true. That's not exactly true.
Wow. I just found another connecting point there with what you just said. It's so funny. That's exactly what I do with my work. So I'll talk to you all about how I come into play a little bit after I say goodbye to Anita. But in terms of what Anita was just saying about, people tell you it's impossible because you don't have that legacy. That's exactly what my coaching work's about. So I coach women to help them realize whatever obstacles you can see or even feel, like you can't see them, you can't touch them, it's more like in your head, they stand in the way because of what you learned growing up, from what people in your circle, with your parents, your teachers, your boss, your friends, whatever you've learned throughout your life affects the way you think, the way you make decisions, the way you approach your goals, you make your goals and you move forward towards them or don't. And all of your decisions are based on that. So I come in as a coach and activist to help women break through those invisible and visible barriers and let you know, hey, whatever you felt was impossible is not, as long as you believe I'm possible. You just got to shift the words around a little bit in that impossible word. And it's all about perception when you think about it.
Absolutely. I agree totally. And sometimes you're in such a situation that you think, oh, there's nothing I can do. You have kids, you got daycare you got to pay, you got this you got to pay, you got this crazy boss you got to deal with, you're trying to fix your car's messed up. It's just all this stuff, and you go around and around and around. And there's ways that you can figure out a different way to do it. But you have to know that it's possible. Yeah. And 100%. Right. Yes.
As a fellow woman of color, I think society just teaches you to believe it's never going to be possible.
Exactly.
And you don't even believe it for yourself until you see the proof in your hands.
Yes.
Because even if somebody tells you, no, it is, here's the path, this is what you got to do, here's who you talk to, you're like, no, I don't see it. It's still not a valid proof for you until you can see yourself doing it and you've done one step. You're like, okay, I think I got this. Then you do step 2 and you got 50 to do. And until you've done that one step and you can see that, yes, I did it. It happened. I can look back and I got the proof for it. That's what pulls you forward. But it's so ingrained in us that you are not meant to survive and thrive because of your background, your ethnicity, where you came from, where your parents went, how they got brought up, what school they went to, what school they didn't go to, how much money they had in their pocket. None of that defines what you will do. Anita, I'm so happy that you came on today. You're showing all listeners that, hey, this is what my story was. This is what my kid's story was. And I not only made it happen for my kids, I made it happen for myself. And I'm still going. I'm not letting my age, my hair color, my body starting to cripple down as, the aging process goes and all. I'm not letting that stop me. There's no stopping you. And I can see that in the way you're talking, what you're talking about, what you're doing. I know you're going to figure it out. You don't know what data activist you're going to do right now. You don't know what kind of activist you're going to be for what data set, but I know you're going to figure it out.
Oh, absolutely.
You got it.
There's no other idea. I'm just going to figure out, and just being in this space with you and people like you, I'm starting to learn other people that are into and figuring out things, and women who are doing things and figuring out other ways of doing it, not just the straight line, Yale, whatever. There's other ways to get around it and get what you need out of these systems that we do have in the United States.
Yeah. And as your brother, right? Not your brother-in-law.
My brother-in-law. Yeah.
I'm sorry. Okay. Your brother-in-law had mentioned, if you don't like the situation, do something to change it. So you can't change the system. You can dislike it, but you can focus on what's in your circle of control what resources are available to you and opportunities, and act on those to break through the situation that the system has created for you. But that doesn't have to be your future.
No, it doesn't. I know it's hard to see. It's hard to see when you're involved in all of those things that are in front of your face. I know it's hard to do. Yeah. But if you just can have faith, maybe a little bit of faith in a higher power and faith in yourself. That is the most thing, faith in yourself, and just keep one step at a time. It's going to take a long time, or maybe not. Just keep going.
Yeah. And that's so beautiful, because I was just about to ask you, Anita, what's one piece of wisdom you would like to share with your listeners? And I know you just shared it. I'd ask, is there another piece of wisdom you'd like to share with our listeners today?
I would say you're going to be tired and it's going to be a hard thing. But, I don't, how Hillary Clinton always says it takes a village. It really, seriously, really does. It takes a village. Just lean on those people. People who help you, just a little thing that they'll do, like keep your kids for an hour so you could just breathe. That's something. Just keep going. That would be the only thing I could say.
And if someone's looking to build their village, Anita, what would you recommend they do, and who should they include in their village?
People that they know, or people that are just around them. For example, just talking to people about your situation, not asking for anything, but just talking to people. Your village can be everyone. If you're on the bus and you're just talking to a guy that you always see every day and you say, hey, here's my situation. What do you think? Or what is your situation? What do you think about this? Or some people I have known that people will help you even though you're not asking. You just want to hear an opinion. Sometimes you can get a lot of information that way. And I don't know, I guess that's the best way I've done it.
That's beautiful. And what a nice way to end that, your village is made up of everyday people who you might not even think have some worth or some value to share. But the ones you think that don't have worth or value to share wisdom with you are the ones who have value and worth to share with you. And it's so funny because that's how Anita and I met. We met through this mentorship kickoff on Anita B. I was just tapping on her door saying, hey, let's have a coffee chat. I had no idea I'd be unlocking this superpower female activist ready to rock and roll from the time she left the Coast Guard. So it was such a gift to meet you, Anita. Never
again to meet you as well.
Oh, thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. And to our audience, never underestimate the power of one connection. Anita and I are proof of that. So value every interaction with every human being you meet. There's always something to learn. And, you can have a beautiful relationship like Anita and I have built over just a few weeks, which is crazy. It's only been a few weeks, but I'm so, so excited to continue. And thank you so much again for
having me. I appreciate talking to you today. Thank you.
Yeah, likewise. Okay. And that wraps it up.